So tucked away here at the southern end of the village of Spetisbury, there's an Iron Age hill fort and a relic of our industrial past which is still being cared for by the residents. It's quite a short walk, but it's one that's rich with history, and I'm keen to get exploring it. So today we start here. This is the southerly tip of the North Dorset Trailway, and from here we can go all the way to Sturminster Newton. Now the trail does break a little bit in the middle for Blandford, and there's a few other little diversions from the railway, but on the whole it follows the course of the old railway bed. This is as far south as you can go for now, but we are heading for Crawford Castle, and it's not far in. We're just literally just a few steps in, and this is quite easy to miss, especially this time of year when the hedgerows roaring away. But if we head into this field, there's a footpath that we can follow up to Crawford Castle. Now Crawford Castle is better known nowadays as Spetisbury Rings, but Spetisbury Ring sounds a little bit on the nose for me, so I prefer to call it the Crawford Castle. So we're just going to head up the edge of this field what looks like, broad beans today. Very nice. A bit old fashioned I guess, broad beans, but I like them. Now we've reached the top of the field now, we've reached the trees, and straight away the footpath, as soon as it enters the trees, it starts to rise. So I think we're probably going to see some earthworks pretty much as we enter. I had a thunderstorm last night, so everything's wet, but it feels nice and fresh and clean. And you can practically hear all this undergrowth growing up. But there is a path here somewhere. Yes, as soon as we pass through the second ring of trees, we've got a pretty telltale sign of a drop down and then an instant climb up. And you can make out through the trees. I don't know how well it's coming out on the video, but there's a pretty steady curve that goes around and it continues down that way on both sides. So it certainly looks man-made. Yeah, I think we've just climbed up onto the topmost rampart now. So I think, yeah, as the trees are opening up. Yeah, wow. What a beautiful view to be greeted with. That's Dorset. Now when you get to the summit, always nice to be greeted by a trig point. almost always a guarantee of a pretty good view. So this is Crawford Castle, better known these days as Spetisbury Rings. Thought to have been built about 2,000 years ago. One of a chain of hill forts in the area, defensive through the Stour Valley, which runs all the way along there in the distance. There's Hod Hill, and of course very famously Bradbury Rings, all part of this chain, and a couple of other minor ones. Now it's unknown, this is quite a small one, so it's unknown if this one was ever finished. Now, hill forts like this weren't just forts, as the name would imply. They were community hubs. They were places where people lived or came to trade, meet people. It really was the starting point of civilization, where we changed from foragers and hunters to actual farmers who were taking control of the land. So whether or not that was a good thing, we lost touch with nature quite a lot. We used to work in harmony with it, then we started working against it. But it is what it is. There's in places like this where it all started. The atmosphere of the place seems to have had a calming effect on Poppy. She'd never normally sit still like this. It's the first time ever. She'd normally be running around sniffing out the rabbits, encouraging me to get up and carry on, but today she seems quite content to just sit and admire the view with me. So as we walk around clockwise, at this point, the ramparts fall away and give way to the railway cutting. Unbelievably, in 1850, when they were constructing the Somerset and Dorset Light Railway, they cut through the ramparts of this fort. Absolute wanton destruction by today's standards, just progress at the time. But the workers there made a grisly discovery, a mass grave. I've seen different figures for this, but between 80 and 100 all met a violent end. Arrowheads in ribs and crushed skulls, signs of execution. I wonder if the people who are enjoying the peaceful woodland walk know they're walking through that site. So as we leave the fort, it brings us straight into a arable field. Today more broad beans. Nothing but beautiful Dorset countryside in front of us. Gotta say, it's a little bit of a strange feeling being in the middle of the countryside and a crop of beans when you know there's an ancient burial ground behind you. Now as we exit the field, we'll just hang a right, work our way down this narrow country lane and onwards to our next historical treat. As you work your way down the lane, it's not long before you reach something that seems unexpectedly grand. Huge, great, imposing brick arch looms ahead. Obviously Victorian in its construction. We've moved ahead a couple of thousand years now, but it's no less interesting. So these extremely robust and Victorian made steps would have brought villagers, commuters to here. Spetisbury railway station. So the trailway in that direction takes us to Blandford and then Sturminster Newton beyond that. If we head up through the station, we'll complete our circular walk for today. The remains of the station are actually in surprisingly good condition, although there's a lot of these edging flagstones missing. I expect they found their way into somebody's kitchen quite a long time ago. Well, this place hasn't been abandoned, far from it. Thanks to the care of the villagers, it's still an active central hub for the village. A place where they can get together, relax, exchange plants. Well-tended flower beds here, and you can see they're trying to restore the buildings as best they can to make it a nice place to come and visit and relax, almost like a park. Nice to see it so well cared for after it was abandoned for so long. It continues to serve the community well. So we're going to leave Spetisbury station behind us and carry on south, back to our starting point, through the woods, through the railway cutting. So in just one small walk, we've seen Iron Age battlegrounds, relics of our industrial heritage, and an area that's now beloved by the local residents. It's the kind of walk that reminds you how many layers a place can carry, and we've not really scratched the surface of this area yet. There's lots more to discover, so I dare say we'll be back at some point. Until then, thanks for joining me.